Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Crow's Nest. Um, I never manage to post as often as I mean to, but I'm doing it. I hope that counts for something. Um, it's been a week, y'all. It, um, I guess first and foremost, I wanted to say for those of you who seem to be finding your way to this blog from the local Indivisible group or Rutherford Aid Network or various other local sources, I don't know what to tell you. This is me the rest of the time when I'm not out on the streets with you. This is what I'm doing. Um, I'm an author. I write about death rites and rituals. I'm a mortician. I'm a witch, and I do all that spooky stuff. Enjoy. Um, if you are a cop or an asshole who found your way here, this is fiction. I'm an author, that sort of thing. Um, I did want to take time at the front end of today's entry to just talk about the kindness and generosity of the volunteers that we had this weekend at the No Kings protest. Um, One of our volunteers and a speaker at the event gifted me these earrings that her daughter made, and I thought that was just so sweet and precious and kind. And they went the extra mile to find me something with a moon, which I thought was really sweet. If you're watching, thank you so much. It was really kind. Um, Secondly, one of our most devoted volunteers, just gung ho and ready to help with everything, is a local 15-year-old trans kid who made a ton of handmade goodies to give out at the protest and did hospitality work. He made me this cool non-binary bracelet as well, which I've been wearing. So I wanted to thank them also. Um, what else? On the magical side of things, I've been packing and planning and prepping for Starwood. That comes up in just a couple weeks. I still can't decide if I'm flying or driving 6 hours. If you'll pardon the expression, sounds like ass, especially alone. But flying is real chancy right now, and especially if you're a trans person with an X-gender passport, as I am. Um, so I'm trying to avoid flying where possible. So we'll see. Maybe making that decision up to the last possible minute. Um, there are a couple of turfy presenters at this year's Starwood, and we've all had this conversation before here and in person. And if I avoid every single event that is hosting someone who espouses bad ideas, then the bad ideas win, right? Because there are no voices calling out these problematic stances on things. So I, for one, am looking forward to heckling a turf or two at Starwood. Just, showing up in every class and asking uncomfortable questions and, really doing the thing. So wish me luck with that. Um, Last year, some of you heard me blog and talk about how challenging nutrition was there. Starwood's pretty isolated. It's at least an hour and a half to anything you might consider a real town or like a grocery store or anything like that. Um, and while they do have some meals on site, I wouldn't exactly call them nutritious. And uh, as someone with Surf Safe certification, I don't love what the health code rating for the kitchen must be. It's an outdoor kitchen, a dirt floor, that kind of thing. So um, it does not play nice with my neurodivergent quirks to want to eat much that came out of that kitchen. Um, However, I do have the benefit of having a room in a little B&B that's there on the property. So I've been thinking up all kinds of crazy and clever solutions to cooking in that space. So if you have great ideas for a recipe that I can cook in like a tea kettle or on a single hot plate, let me know. I'm excited to hear what you can come up with because On my end, it's looking like a lot of canned soup and sandwiches. Um, if if it's something on your radar and you're in that area, you want to come say hi, let me know. We can hang out. I'll also be at Free Spirit Gather, which itself is just a week or two away from Starwood. So that's like two really long campy events right on top of each other. That one's almost 10 hours from here, so we'll almost certainly have to fly. It has similar issues in terms of just sort of being isolated and being a long event and being very camp-like. Camp-like. So I do have the benefit also of staying in a proper room instead of a tent at this event, but the house on property used to be part of the Underground Railroad and is supposedly quite haunted. So I'm looking forward to staying in that space, actually, not only from the perspective of its spirits that might be there, but also my heart is warmed by this idea of a space that worked to protect people and move people in a time in which that must have been very dangerous. Um, so that's exciting. And I also have a sidekick for that particular event, Tamsin Davis Langley, who you might know as Misha Magdalene, author of Outside the Charm Circle, will be traveling down from Rhode Island and rooming with me and, buddy copping around with me for the whole event. So I'm excited about that. I don't get to rest much, and I definitely don't get to rest at these events. They are work, but it's something different than being at home. So I'm looking forward to at least trying to convince myself that it's some kind of vacation. Um, what else? On the mundane side of things, the protest on Saturday was pretty wild. I mean, if you were a participant in it, it was beautiful and joyous and filled with energy and exuberance, and very few people even noticed that we had any problems. But if you were a marshal or peacekeeper at that event, you would know that we had quite a few problems. There was another local protest at the here in the county, just in the next tiny town. You need to recognize they're like 5 miles apart. This is not like these are not huge spans of space. But the first was from 9 to 11, and then ours was from 11 to 1. We had hoped to hire an off-duty officer for security support at the event. I know what you're thinking, but small town, that can have certain benefits contextually to our circumstance. We were refused flatly. No. Not only did the office not want to do it, but no officers would volunteer, even if we were paying their salary. So there's that. Even though the other event was given security support, I wonder what's different about us. Well, I'm a trans person. The leader of that group is not. I'm a pagan person. The leader of that group is not. There are some pretty obvious distinctions as to why we might not have been desirable to support. They told us they were understaffed, etc. So imagine our surprise on the day of when there is not one, not two, but three unmarked police cars, just sort of not at all subtly sort of positioned around the space we're going to be in, with a total of 4 officers, again, not at all subtly positioned around the perimeter. It's like, oh, okay, so we're the problem. We're going to be observed as being a possible issue all day long. So that was sort of amusing. On top of that, the sheriff in our county stood literally just across the sidewalk in a public parking lot with the leader of the local GOP office, and who happens to be a leader of a local cult that you've heard me talk about quite a bit. Just sort of, talking about us and observing us all day. So that it seems like a lot of staffing waste for an office that does not have enough staff to send someone out. Nevertheless, I found them completely useless anytime we did have a problem. Unsurprising. I didn't know this till after the event, but at about 11:30 or so, someone actually called 911 to complain that American flags were being burned at the protest. Now, myself and the other indivisible organizer in the area, we never figured actually what event they were attempting to target because they gave her location and my time. So, shrug. But ultimately, he simply got arrested for his trouble for misuse of 911 and was also charged with resisting arrest. So, tough day for that guy. Um, we also had a guy come out. He did Trump shirt, Trump hat, whatever. He's walking around the space. He's videoing with a cell phone, whatever. He talked to a couple of people. Everyone was polite and peaceful, and he left. And I did find a post he made online later, which it tickled me to death because he seemed very surprised that we were civil and peaceful and polite. He said that everyone was respectful, as was he. I did a little research into him, and as it turns out, he was the leader of the GOP office, a county over from us, or at least was at one point in time, and was also a January 6th insurrectionist who pretty recently attended a Justice for January 6th rally where he was there to support an incarcerated member of the Proud Boys. So this very upstanding citizen found us to be respectful and civil. And what a mark of praise that must be from such an upstanding person themselves. We had not one but two groups of neo-Nazis attend the event. Fun fact, having an invitation in, it's great for lots of evil creatures like vampires, ice, Nazis. So it was very, hi, this is a private event. We're gonna have to ask you to leave. So they did. This jackass with their SS branded tank top or whatever. And I kept thinking to myself that it takes all the scary out of a Nazi to imagine them like shopping at some Hot Topic in hell for just the perfect top to disrupt a protest. Like, get over yourself, right? But they're easily foiled. So was the second group. We did have a truck that made several passes by, and at one point pulled out a holstered gun and waved it at the crowd the whole way passing by. And on several other passes made a gesture of shooting at the crowd with their finger. We did alert the police to this and gathered tag number and other information, but they did nothing about it. There was another truck actually waving Trump flags. It was so focused on heckling the protesters that they blocked an ambulance for almost a full minute. We caught video of it on a GoPro, and I still don't understand why cops didn't intervene with that either. But here we were. Our protest location is only about a mile from the hospital. We're like on that main drag, so blocking an ambulance from their duties was, I thought, pretty outrageous. We had another gentleman come up with a gun out in their hand, and while their body language was relaxed and they weren't pointing it at anyone, that was also a little exciting. I personally had to defuse and disarm and get that person out of there. It's crazy stuff I do on the day-to-day, I guess. In addition to all that, we had this woman, a local woman who has a Substack filled with like tinfoil hat level political conspiracy stuff, who came out and did some recording and then went over and grabbed a comment from the local GOP leader and the sheriff who were standing off to the side, which, all right, I guess. she did take the time to make fun of some of the protesters for attempting to give her a hand up onto the sidewalk. She was at that time using a cane and had a dog with her, so someone offered to give her a hand, and she found this ridiculous and spent quite a bit of time sneering at them about it. But okay. Um, we had some kind of weird news coverage. The local paper sort of acted like we weren't there. Again, I think this is like the LGBTQ and faith differences issue. Um, all in all, I think the protest was a real success. In our very small town, we had just over 300 people come out, as did the other protest, which was great. Um, at any one time, we had about 202 people, which it's good. That's good for an area like this. Um, some local groups helped us out. Pastor Matt Gary of the United Methodist Church came out and was one of our marshals. EPSA from Lighthaven up in Hendersonville, North Carolina was also one of our marshals, and their team did an amazing job of running the bullhorn all day and doing chants with folks. And I was just so impressed with how everybody handled themselves. And of course, we have a lot of other stuff going on too that I'm sure I'll bore you all with in the future. Yeah, local book club and meetups and that sort of thing, are just trying to foster some community in an area that's been so hard hit and has so much struggle. And it's, too goddamn much on top of that to feel isolated, so I'm trying to do my part to correct that. What's next? It was just rallying volunteers and planning for the events I'm headed off to. I haven't really said anything about it much because it's a secret, but I will be back at Hallowed Homecoming this year. I'm not their featured guest, but I'm like a secret third thing to the side. So if you're out there, you can say hi. Hit me up. I'll play cards with you. And until next time, this is the news from the crow's nest. Bye, everybody.